Welcome everybody. This is SharePoint Patterns and Practices customer case presentation. So with these ones and these videos, what we want to do is actually show you in practice how the PnP provisioning engine or the other aspects of the PnP reusable components are used in a real-world projects. This time we're here with Solvion and Tommy Kellis from Solvion, actually doing the demonstration of how they are using the PnP and what they've been able to build on top of it. My name is Esa Juvonen. I'm a senior program manager from SharePoint Engineering, and like mentioned, Thomas will be the main guy leading the presentation today. But Thomas, will you do quick introductions of yourself as well before we do deeper introductions on things?
Of course. Good morning, everybody. My name is Thomas Kellis. I'm working at Solvion, and I have the pleasure today to show you something my team did the last couple of years and how we transitioned the stuff from on-premises solution right to the cloud.
Excellent. Thanks, Tommy. And that's a really good perspective as well, because there's a lot of partners who are actually moving from the classic farm solution based or on-premises based customizations to the cloud. So from that perspective, this is super interesting webcast. Before we go to the actual content, and I'll fully give Tommy the lead permission, let's quickly explain what is a SharePoint Patterns and Practices in a few seconds. So SharePoint Patterns and Practices is SharePoint Engineering owned and coordinated open source community driven initiative. And so what we do is that we share code samples, guidance, we have community calls and actually bi-weekly special interest calls as well. We do have case studies. The themes are in SharePoint Framework, which is the new stuff, which is going live on SharePoint Online pretty soon, and also on premises later this year. SharePoint add-ins, Microsoft Graph, and Office 365 APIs. So the guidance will be is applicable to both SharePoint Online and on-premises where suitable. AKMS SharePoint PnP is the one URL you want to remember. But that's it for quick introductions. So I'll leave it to Tommy to lead the presentation, and I'll jump in on asking random questions as we move along. So Tommy, take it away.
Okay. So in terms of who we are and what we did, just give me 1 minute to set the scene right on what we're working with. Solvion is a company working in internet solutions for the last 15 years, and we are focusing on Microsoft technology now for 12 years, so only working with the logos you see on the bottom here. Basically, we have two types of teams. We have one that's around Office 365 focusing on Skype and Link, and one that's around Office 365 and focusing on SharePoint. And on top of these technologies, we build solutions for what we call a modern workplace. We have our own consulting team that is doing transition consulting, so helping our customers moving from a non-digital world to a more and more digital work in types of their workflow. And we have two products, so to speak. One is our Solvion Workbox, and one is from our partners, Anywhere 365 for Skype for Business dialogue management. So that's just a short introduction in terms of what Solvion is. You find all the links and how to reach me or to get to know to me, like Twitter or my blog. So if you're interested, just stop by.
And before we actually, Thomas, we go forward from here, just a quick question on the, let's say, the Solvion size. So in this case, we're going to talk about the PnP usage and Solvion. So how many customers you actually have using this kind of a solutions in the on-premises or the classic solutions, or then the PnP-based solution, just to set the scene?
Of course, in terms of on-premises solution, I think we are around like 60 real customers that are using our solution in terms of self-service site creation, may it be webs or may it be site collections and all this stuff. And in terms of cloud, we have now 5 to 10 users that are really using the stuff in production, and about the same number again that are doing like proof of concept because they are just in the transition phase from on-premises to cloud, and they need something in terms of collaboration.
And just to correct on that one, you said 5 to 10 users, but it's probably 5 to 10 tenants.
So tenants, of course. Yeah, sorry. Yeah,
absolutely, no worries. But okay, I'll give it to you on walking through the solution and the history. How did we get? How did you guys actually come up with this?
Okay, great. Just to give you some background information, we as a company started, I think, 5 or 6 years ago in terms of providing our customers a self-service site creation solution. And what we built is what we internally called, or calling are now again, is Action Framework. And the Action Framework basically is a bunch of actions deployed via a VSP package, so full trust code solution running on a SharePoint on-premises farm. And you can see it here in the settings of one of our SharePoint lists. We have some additional menu entries like certain Action Framework events and ribbon extensions. So we were able to, just by configuring XML style config files directly in the SharePoint settings, we were able to add items in the ribbon, or do more sophisticated stuff like creating site collections, creating subwebs, setting permissions, breaking role inheritance. Because what we basically ended up doing is, if you see it like here, we have some action configuration, and the action basically is some full trust code sitting in the farm. And this configuration stuff on the front end just says, okay, in terms of X, I need to go to this action, and I need to go through this action. And for this example, we add users to group based on the settings in the SharePoint list and based on some list entries. And that's fine, because with this solution, we didn't need to deploy or to hardwire all the stuff into the VSP for every customer. We just deployed our infrastructure and then configured the stuff for the different customers. And we kept inventing new actions and new actions. But in some point of time, Office 365 showed up. And of course, you're not able to deploy a VSP package to Office 365. So we had to come up with a different architecture to provision site collections or subwebs also in Office 365. And that's the main point of today, how we transitioned this knowledge right up to the cloud.
Absolutely makes sense. And I have to say that on the classic solution, you're probably not an only partner or company who's offering and built similar kind of solutions in the farm solution era or for on-premises. We've seen quite a few partners which then transitions to the cloud. So really interesting topic to talk about. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think everyone that does more SharePoint work at some space in time starts creating something like provisioning engines.
Absolutely.
And there are probably hundreds out there, but yeah, there's also a good one we can use, and this is the thing we came up with, because what we tried to create was an architecture where a user can start somewhere in a SharePoint service and browse over to what we call our Teambox dashboard, and basically start there by creating a new collaboration space. In our wording, we're always speaking of boxes, because this is our main word we came up. You can call it a space, box, site, or whatever, but basically it's a SharePoint site collection or SharePoint subweb, what we call a box. And the user enters all the data like project title, who is the requester, and some metadata about the site that should be provisioned. And our dashboard stores the stuff as a simple SharePoint list entry in a SharePoint site collection. That's our infrastructure site collection for the solution. That's just, I think, 10 SharePoint lists where we store all the things needed for creation. And as soon as the user saves these list items, an Azure Web Job kicks in, goes through the items that you as a user create, and depending on the configuration of the solution, for example, we create a site collection in your Office 365 tenant with a given template, with a given theming or customer design, whatever you have in your mind. But what we also can do is that we can say, okay, we're not only able to create site collections in the cloud, but based on configuration, our solution can also create site collections on premises. So you have one dashboard where just based on the metadata, your users end up creating stuff directly in the cloud, like an Office 365 group, or because they have some different options available in the dashboard, they also are able to create on-premises site collection. So this is a true hybrid scenario, because what we as a team try to provide here is a solution where the customer decides when he is right to go to the cloud, and when he thinks, okay, I still have this feeling that I need some spaces on premises, or I need to migrate stuff from on premises to the cloud. And normally this migration process isn't done in just a few weeks. They took sometimes years. And for this period of time, he still can use the solution for a real hybrid scenario. And another thing we just used, because SharePoint Online out of the box provided us with this possibility, is that we are also able to configure the dashboard in a way that as soon as a SharePoint List entry is created, we immediately start by provisioning a site collection. And of course, you also can use the plain REST interface of a SharePoint List by any given other third-party solution or any other application to just enter the data in the SharePoint List, and then the Teambox kicks in and provides different collaboration spaces. For example, we have one customer that has a process in CRM Online. If a new customer of theirs gets promoted to a new stage, they sync their CRM with their local ERP system, and this process also does just this REST call to store an entry in the SharePoint List, in the Teambox infrastructure list, and then our solution kicks in and provides the user with a new site collection in his collaboration space based on the data basically provided by the CRM system.
That's actually really, really great design. So let's spend a few moments on this one, because there's a few items which I wanted to kind of clarify and to get noted. So you are storing those requests in a SharePoint list, and you actually mentioned that really well, but I want to kind of reiterate the message. So one of the advantages of doing that is the fact that you have a native APIs to access the list data. So if you would be storing these requests, let's say in a document DB or SQL Azure, you would have to implement interfaces for alternative devices or systems to get access on the list, or adding items to the queue. So that's a really, really good point, and on the advantages of using a SharePoint list, as long as the amount of data in the list isn't too much, right? So really good point. So from a let's say future development or perspective, you can actually really easily develop a mobile device or an app where you can request their sites if that would be requested, because the REST endpoint and API is already natively there. That's really good design.
And also we can trust on the authentication part of Azure Active Directory.
Yes.
So we can set up an Azure AD app with all the things for authentication, and just hand you over a client secret, and then any application can create list entries here. Yes.
So that's a really great point, because then the only thing what you need to concentrate is essentially the UI implementation of the device app, because authentication is coming from Azure. The SharePoint list is actually storage. It's exposing the APIs already. That's a really good point. The second point what I wanted to kind of quickly touch first is the SharePoint Online side of the provisioning of the sites. You mentioned that you can choose a template and you provision a template, and these are essentially these are PnP provisioning templates which are applying to the site.
Yes.
And in your process, you, as part of the deliverables for the customer, you are essentially having that discussion with the customer, and then you design those templates to be available based on the discussions.
We have some templating site collections. So for every type of team box, in our wording, it's quick team, work group, or project. We have a template site collection, so the customer can add stuff to this template, and the web shop actually, every time it creates a site collection, goes to these sites, reads out the information in terms of the PnP model. So we end up like have a real-time template. just reading the configuration and applying it to the new site collection. So the customer can change things, can add webparts, or can make adjustments, and everything the PnP is able to set up in the provisioning template, we are able to apply to the new site collection.
Absolutely. So that this way, the actual, let's say, HR people or the business people, they just use browser to define the templates, and then the engine itself is extracting the template and applying that to the new site. Super cool. And that was no doubt one of the key architectural principles for the PnP provisioning engine as well. So great to see that one in practice as well. The last point on this one, I'm sorry for taking some time on the slide, because the architectural designs are always really cool before we actually say this live. And the number 6 point, which is the on-premises side of the story.
Yes.
So one of the key advantages in this design actually clearly is the fact that you actually host this application in the Microsoft Azure side. And that means that you do not have to have additional hardware or customizations in on-premises SharePoint. But how do you actually provision that on-premises site collection to the on-premises farm? So are you using Service Bus, or do you have to expose your on-premises farm to internet? That's probably the typical question.
Yeah, this is a two-part answer here. The first step is if the customer is okay with his SharePoint be exposed to the internet, we just use the Azure website to reach into your on-premises farm and create the stuff based on the software that's available, like for example the client-side object model to create the stuff. But with this architecture, we are also able to run what is in the normal case that is running on an Azure website. We are also able to deploy the stuff to a local IaaS website. So we have two customers that say, okay, I don't have my SharePoint exposed to the internet, so I'm totally strict on network trafficking. So I just have a local IaaS website that is speaking with SharePoint. That's also possible.
Yeah.
Basically, you can store this type of timer job first and foremost in Azure websites, but also just deployed on a local IaaS machine.
Absolutely makes sense. Thanks for clarifying that one. But yeah, let's move on. Let's actually see the UIs and functionalities in practice.
Okay, so I will jump over to the demo environment, and I want to start with the demo case with, I think, the tool everyone that is working in project is familiar with, because maybe many listeners and viewers spend some time in Outlook, and I want just to start with a short story on what we are thinking and what we are trying to provide the user in terms of interface, in terms of the solution. So I just start the presentation with an email that I wrote to myself with my two different accounts, and the story is like this. I get an email where the messenger asks me to create access for Bernd, for one of my colleagues, to our marketing team. And if you're working in projects, you normally get these messages in a regular base in the project workflow. So you need to add people to your project, or you need to get rid of some permissions. And what we can do is now you just click here on the Teambox 365 SharePoint add-in or Outlook add-in, and immediately the page is fired up here. And if I need to add someone to marketing, I search for team marketing, click on members, and then I get a list of all the users that are configured in this team box. And if I need to invite Bernd, I just click invite users, search for all my colleagues that are named Bernd, pick the right one, and then we have the permissions level and say, okay, he is in sales, so I only will give him read access. And then I click on invite, and as soon as this is happening, I'm finished. I can close the Outlook add-in and can answer the question and say, okay, permission granted, Bernd has no access. So what we saw here is basically our add-in for our solution that kicks in every time you click on this Teambox 365 icon, and you not only are able to create to edit boxes or something like this, but you also can do the whole process. And the whole process in terms of a web interface looks something like this. Because what we're seeing on or what you see on here now is our main dashboard for our collaboration spaces. So we have a solution what we call Solvion Workbox, and what we're focusing on today is the Teambox part of it, where we try to focus on all stuffs around self-service site creation and self-service permissions for the project managers or for the owners of the different collaboration spaces. And what we created is a nice interface where you can say, okay, I need a new quick theme, and then I can say, let's have a PnP quick theme here with some description, and then I can look for a business owner in the case that I'm not the person that is responsible for the whole collaboration space, because I just make this space, let's say for Vesta, for example. So I can browse here for a different user and create this, and then if I click on request, based on the configuration of the different types we are providing here, the engine kicks in and creates, for example, a SharePoint site collection or an Office 365 group or on-premise site collection, or everything you can imagine in terms of SharePoint artifacts is possible to configure behind this thing. What we did here is that we tried to stay with the newest user interface Microsoft is providing in their site creation process. So all different templates, for example, projects, you have this nice little wizard where you enter data on the one side. I have some metadata here, and then jump over to the next wizard step, because the users are so able to have only 3 to 5 metadata input fields on one side of the wizard, and can step through the different artifacts. And also, what in terms of an architecture, what is a cool thing, if you think of site collections, and sometimes it's taking SharePoint Online some seconds to spin up a new site collection, you already can fire up the process of creating the site collection. The first thing, when the user clicks on the first next button, and then apply all other managed metadata on the end of the process. So in an optimal time frame, the user starts with the wizard, and as soon as he's finished, the site collection is already ready. So absolutely. It's just a little workaround about the performance issues here.
Which is, by the way, what we do natively in the SharePoint in the modern creation as well. Just out of curiosity, I think people watching the video might be asking or thinking that, hey, wait a minute, that looks like a SharePoint control, the modern SharePoint creation control. So is that as some sort of a native SharePoint component, or is it something that the whole thing, what you've implemented as a custom implementation?
This is implemented by us, but we are using all the things that are provided by the community or provided by Microsoft itself. For example, all the user interface here is based on Office UI Fabric. So we create the whole solution as an Angular app using Office UI Fabric and all the styles that are provided with it. So the goal was that the user interface looks familiar to everyone using Office 365, and you don't have to do some additional training or some additional documentation.
Yes, absolutely makes sense, and it really looks like a part of Office 365. So it's great to see this one in practice as well. Okay,
what we are able to do with this dashboard is that we show to the user all his collaboration spaces he created. We just applied some basic theming for this webcast in terms of Microsoft colors and PnP colors, so you have a feeling of what it can look like in a real world scenario. But what I'm able to do here is that I'm not only able to do this on a browser on my desktop, but it's also a responsive site, so you can go ahead and create new theme boxes or new quick themes also on your mobile phone. And if you compare these two screens right now, that's also basically what we did with the Outlook add-in, because the Outlook add-in is just an XML manifest for Office 365 Exchange, where we route the user to our normal normal Azure website, and you just are seeing the normal dashboard in the responsive view next to your mails in Outlook. So it's a nice feature in terms of how the Outlook add-ins evolved from COM objects to the new add-in infrastructure. And this is something we just used here.
Absolutely. And a great demo on that integration model as well. Absolutely.
Okay. In terms of life cycle, we are able to create the different artifacts based on the metadata the user provides us. So, for example, as a user, you can create a quick team, a work group, or project, and as an IT department for a large customer, for example, you can define that only people that are stored in a special Active Directory group or SharePoint group are able to create quick teams, because quick teams probably is configured to deploy a new Office 365 group, and you just want to make sure that only the guys that should play around with this new technology are able to create it, and all your normal projects are created with the customer template you provide your users with. So you can play here with governance features and only make templates available to the user group. They should be able to create their own templates. What we are also able to do here is that we can edit and change things on the different sites. For example, if I click on the team marketing content here, I can add members afterwards. So I can, as we saw it in the Outlook add-in, create also new users or provide new users access directly in the dashboard. And what we are also able to do is that we can change the requester. For example, I can say in this demo, Carmen was responsible for the team marketing box, and for example, she has she leaves a Solvion or for whatever reason, I can say, okay, I need a successor for her for being able to handle all the documents and the team box itself. I can choose between giving back the site to IT or hand over the site to her manager, or I can select a user in our environment, and for example, I can hand it over to Stefan, for example, and then we have it here as well. So that's also in terms of governance. We have a nice little workflow that kicks in terms of an archiving perspective. So you can configure these team boxes to be able to, let's say, after 60 days, the team box kicks in and says, okay, you are out of your time. Do you still need more time for your collaboration space? And then the user can say, I'm fine. We can archive this stuff, or I need 30 more days, because what we saw in our projects is that more and more customers are trying to find a solution that they can get rid of their project spaces on their file share. And I've been here in the industry now for 10 years, and I only see file share getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and nobody deletes files here. And with this approach, we're trying to focus on the work you're actually doing and get rid and provide a flow of archiving also your team boxes out of your focus, what's actually on your mind right now. In terms of what we are able to provide you with is, if I go to the team marketing here, I already prepared the site collection. You see just a plain SharePoint online site collection that is created, and what we do in terms of governance is that we say, or we provide or the box with a given URL. So we are just using some abbreviations or some number stuff in terms like a code for the site collection, so the user can easily change his naming afterwards, but all the hyperlinks and all the stuff that is linked to the site collection stays with the actual name. Because in terms of archiving, we are just putting the site collection to read-only mode, and still all the hyperlinks and all the documents that are linking to the different areas are okay and working fine, and we are only managing the read permissions. And that's also a good approach, because we came across some use cases where someone said, okay, I need to archive this stuff. And then 3 months later, they say, okay, I need it now back working. And so we have a flow that we can just say, okay, read mode or edit mode with our interface.
Yeah. And that's a classic scenario as well before the full life cycle of the site. And it's good to see that that's taken into account as well. Really good.
Okay. What we also have is the possibility to have some administration views. So for example, if you have the different roles in your IT lifecycle, you also have an administrator for your collaboration spaces, and you can, for example, also remove the users from the whole team boxes, because what we are able to do is that we are also able to integrate external users to our different team boxes. And this is a common scenario where you're working with different contractors, for example, and the life cycle of one project ended, and you need to make sure that this external contractor has no further access to your site. If he has a normal AD login, you can of course just inactivate this user. But in terms of external users, we had one customer that would really make sure that this user is removed from all the different sites and all the different site collections. So we have this functionality that we can say, okay, I need to remove the user, and then you just search for the user and click on remove, and the provisioning engine kicks in and goes through all the different sites and make sure that this user is always set to read access none, because we don't want to get rid of the user. Because in terms of the audit log, we still need the information that at some point in time the user was given access to the site, but we try to make sure that he has no further access if you just say, okay, the project ended, for example. And in terms of user interface, what we saw in the last, let's say, the last 2 quarters of 2016, you see it in the modern user interface in SharePoint Online. More and more, wizards or configuration bars are flying in from the right side of your browser, and that's also what we start doing here. So everything you can do with a Teambox, for example, you have 2 main areas. You have here this action bar, like in a modern SharePoint list, where you can say, okay, I need to change my members, for example. And then from the right-hand side, some wizard kicks in and provides you with the user interface for just this particular action. And also, if, for example, I'm now in the admin role, if I say, okay, I need all the boxes Thomas created, I can just filter it here and say, okay, I just need this one. And then I have also the same functionality of changing requesters or adding members as an admin for everyone on the space. So this is it in terms of what we do from a user perspective. What we are also able to do with this solution is, let's just jump back over for a short view on the infrastructure side, because what you see here is our dashboard that is running in Azure right now. And the data you see here, for example, let's focus on the ESPC 2016 brainstorming stuff here. If I jump over to our infrastructure site collection, and I just need to click through the stuff that end up in the right list. I'm now in the quick teams list, and you see here the entry from this ESPC 2016 brainstorming. So it's just a plain list item entry. And the dashboard simply just provides data access to this list entry, and our Azure Web Shop is listening to this list and kicks in every few minutes and checks, okay, do I need to do something here? And then grabs all the stuff here and provides the actions that we should do for the user. So this is an important part also because of the metadata, and we are also able to integrate managed metadata here in this list and provide the user at the interface level with an exposure of this metadata just in our user interface.
And this is actually exactly the same approach what we have in the starter kit for our partners in the PnP, which is called PnP Partner Pack, which is essentially it's demonstrating some of the same capabilities what Solvion has, but it's more around, hey, this is how you get started. This is the source code to understand how these things are actually working, and we have videos on other people to learn how to build similar kind of stuff. But in Solvion's case, no doubt you've evolved this to further down on the road to a really nice direction. So really good implementation.
Thank you. So just to make the example in terms of the hybrid scenario, if you pay attention to the URL of the site I'm opening here now, you see that I'm now at an on-premises site. So this is one of our 2016 farms that we use here. So with one dashboard, I'm seeing here collaboration spaces that are just SharePoint site collections on premises, that are site collections in SharePoint cloud environment, and also I can go here and say, okay, let's have a look at this ESPC thing. We end up in a SharePoint group, in our Office 365 group, sorry. So we are able to integrate all the different collaboration artifacts that are possible in Office 365 environment, and the user just has one interface where he starts his work, and the dashboard provides him with all the different spaces he needs to get his work done. This was one main perspective of the solution.
And on that particular topic, this is actually a really great approach and a kind of architectural direction, because quite often when I used to be in the field as a consultant in Microsoft, when we did migrations to the SharePoint Online, quite a lot of customers were saying that, hey, but we have the SharePoint already in on-premises, we can't move because the migration takes so long and it's super expensive. Which is true if you do the migration. To be fair, one way of starting the move is to start creating all of the new content to SharePoint Online, and then keep the old content still in the on-premises until that's outdated, or until the migration project is actually gradually moving them to the SharePoint Online. But that way, you get to be able to use the SharePoint Online and new capabilities for new content, and that's a really great way of kind of gradually adapting the SharePoint Online for your company. So really nice to have that capability implemented here as well.
Okay, one further thing you see here, if you pay attention to this fellow here, you see that it says it's trying to delete something. It's in the state of deleting. That's one thing we also implemented, that basically as a user you are unable to delete anything. You just hand in a site like a deleting request, and as an administrator I can see all the pages that have it here with the deletion requests, and I only as administrator can go forward and really delete the site collection. So for a user, he's just only saying, okay, I want to get rid of this thing and this thing, but only an administrator has the right permission to really get to the point where you say, okay, delete site collection or delete site, because out of experience we know that users click on delete, and then they came back, I don't know, 2 weeks after this click and say, oh, I still need this site. So we have some additional governance, let's say, kicked in here, that we make sure that we, as from an IT perspective, can always go back to a site. And if you, for example, living in SharePoint Online, you can save these site collections up until your storage reaches a certain limit. And you then you start deleting the real old site collections, so you're always able to jump back in time and provide the user with also deleted site collections.
That's pretty convenient as well, no doubt.
Okay, I think this is it in terms of a demo scenario. I don't want to jump any more deeper levels. I would suggest we jump back to our PowerPoint and make a wrap-up of what we were seeing here.
Sounds good. Absolutely.
Okay. So I'm just going back to the PowerPoint slide deck, we started the demo case with our Outlook add-in. It's just a regular Outlook add-in providing the basic functionality of the responsive Teambox dashboard to our users based on the new Office add-in model, so just the URL configuration, and all the things you're able to do on the big dashboard, you're also able to do just in your Outlook add-in or on your mobile phone or on your tablet or whatever screen size you prefer working with.
One point actually to pinpoint on the previous slide, there was a create as well, which is good. So if somebody, because typically people send emails still, and they request a new site collection, then you can just quickly create, hey, I'll create you a site collection from my Outlook, and that's really convenient. So.
And the next thing we are working on is that you also can drag and drop things from Outlook to your Teambox, because if you think of the responsive site collection just from a technical perspective, it's an Azure website, and we can enable this container here also for being able to drag and drop stuff, and you can define a document library where stuff should end up being stored, and just put an attachment or put an email here and store it to your solution. So this is something we are already thinking of, because this is the first thing users ask you if you show this screen to them.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. In terms of the dashboard, we saw the different functionalities and the user interface that we try to implement. So we're working in a user interface way that looks familiar to what Microsoft provides with Office 365 out of the box, but we're using Office UI Fabric and the different functionalities we have with the styling to provide a solution that looks like Office 365, although it sits in some Azure website, for example.
Yeah.
We can edit the users, and we have some short slides here for what it looks like on a mobile phone. So it's totally responsive. I just resized my browser window here for this screenshot, but it's also working on your phone or your tablet, because it's a responsive design here. In terms of hybrid solution, I want to make sure that you see the difference in here, because we are working on a Azure website here, and also are able to modify or to create site collections on premises. So I highlighted the different areas here. So one dashboard that sits in a true hybrid mode in between the two worlds, and is able to create all the artifacts based on your configured flow. Okay. What we also saw in the demo was in terms of our governance pack, our governance parts. We are able to provide you with some administrational user interface where you can change the requester or the business owner of all the team boxes in terms from a user perspective. For example, if somebody is leaving the company or won't be available for the next 2 to 6 months, you are able to configure all the boxes that these particular users in this screenshot case, I created those twos, and the drop-down box was filtered to my name, and then an admin can go in here and say, okay, I want to put this team boxes back to the hands of IT, or I want to put it in the manager's hands, or select the user and say, okay, this team box needs to go to Stefan, and this team box needs to go to Klaus, for example. So we have the real governance workflow here. And in terms of quota, if you configure the solution, for example, for a 2 GB quota, you can just by entering a configuration in our infrastructure lists that you saw earlier, you say, let's say at 80%, the solution kicks in and sends out an information that the storage will be you'll be running out of storage basically, and then you can kick in and say, okay, I need more time, I need more storage, just give me another gigabyte or another space to do my work. And also we are reaching out to the user in terms of archiving on a configuration base. For example, the normal thing is that we say quick themes are only available for 60 days. And after 50 days, we reach out for the user and make sure he knows, okay, your quick theme will be closed soon. And then you can configure the solution on how often the user can say, okay, I need more time, I need more space, give me another 30 days or give me another 60 days. That's all based on the configuration. So we are open on the stuff, on the workflow, on the governance workflow the customers like. Okay. What we also came up with in terms of user interface, and we just want to also show you something we built for Yammer, because we don't only created a solution that works in the collaboration space, we are also having some artifacts and some base layer in terms for our internet solution or our communication solution. So on the left-hand side, you see our basic demo environment in terms of what an internet can look like. And this screen focuses on the integration we built for Yammer. The flow is like you see the main page, the global landing page, what we call it. And then you have here an article page that shows you some demo content from our environment. And then you have this blue Yammer logo here. And if you click on this Yammer logo, also from the right, a wizard kicks in, and this drop-down box shows you all the Yammer groups you are a part of. And then based on the permissions in the Yammer group, for example, if you're an admin of a Yammer group, you can provide the user with an announcement. So you click this checkbox, provide some information for the headline and for the teaser text, and click publishing. And what happens is that we create an Office 365 graph object with the URL of this special content page. And down here you see the integration part on the site perspective. You see all the comments that were created for this particular page directly here. And
essentially you are able to then comment the page in the intranet or in the Yammer, and it doesn't really matter. It's integrated across.
And the nicest part basically is the announcement stuff, because if you think of mobile phones, as soon as you click on announcement, everyone that is member of this Yammer group gets a short beep on his mobile phone and knows there is a new notification and knows there is a new stuff in the internet or in the Yammer group. Yes.
To be fair, I hate those beeps, which are all the time happening in my devices. But it is a good design. So I absolutely agree on that. So.
Yeah. If you want to know more about the solution, I provided the link to a blog post with more screens and how this Yammer integration can look like in an internet scenario.
Yeah, excellent. We'll get that one also in the video notes so that people can easily access the additional information. But this was kind of, we talked with Thomas on this particular step, but this is so cool. And it actually integrates nicely SharePoint Online and Yammer from a UI perspective and end user perspective. So we wanted to kind of touch and keep the slide in. There is guidance on how to make this happen out there in the internet, and Thomas's blog post is explaining models as well. So.
And we are also thinking of open sourcing some of our solutions, and the Yammer integration part is on our roadmap. The first thing we think of putting out into the open, so guys can grab the code and also integrate this in their local intranet.
Yeah, Absolutely, and that's cool. And by the way, on the Yammer integration, this actually works into on-premises as well, as long as your end users have internet access. So you can absolutely use Yammer in on-premises in a seamless way, like it is in here, as long as there is an internet access from the all of the machines. So
yeah,
good. That was actually the last step of the story, wasn't it?
Yes.
Just closing up on the webcast, and obviously, so we in the PnP in the SharePoint Patterns and Practices, it's great to see how the engine is actually used behind of the scenes, and that's really what we want to do. We want to provide a reusable component, reusable tooling, which isn't necessarily visible for the end users, but it provides consistency on the implementations. And Thomas, from your perspective now, if we think about the new implementation, the UIs are absolutely brilliant. You need to thank your UI designers for that. But why did you choose to use the PnP provisioning engine in the background? So what was the kind of the decision point behind of that? Just out of curiosity. So because Ober's alternative option would be to implement something by yourself, because it isn't that big of a deal, or is it actually implement that?
We have the history of creating, I think, 2 or 3 different types of provisioning engines already by ourselves. And the big deal here is that we trust the PnP group in terms of going forward with all the stuff that is around Office 365. So basically what we do from a strategic perspective, we just say to our customers, we will integrate the newest things Office 365 provides us as soon as the PnP has the possibility to do so. Because I, as a team lead, have some responsibility in terms of new technology, and when it's a good decision to go to the cutting edge technology stuff. But normally I try to have a plan like, let's say, Office 365 releases something in May. PnP is also working on it and is able to provide a new interface or a new API in June. Then we will kick in and say, okay, let's look at it for the next 1 or 2 months, and then we're going to use it, because it makes no sense that we try to build this ourselves, because obviously you guys have the experience and have the broader view on the roadmap and what is happening in the background. So we just stay back and wait, and we just adopting and or putting new stuff on top of it in terms of the feedback we get from our customers.
Absolutely, and obviously one thing to consider with the PnP provisioning engine, it is fully open source, and we do have community contributions. We actually have 250 contributors in the PnP in general. And it is evolving extremely fast. And maybe if people are thinking that, well, it isn't actually that big of a deal to implement that kind of an engine. Actually,
it is. If you think of all the XML manifests and all the lines you have in the solution, or the template, it is a big deal. If you try to a solution that can provide you with every artifact in Office 365, it is a big deal.
Yes. And to be fair, I do remember when we were in the PnP team, we were for a long time kind of thinking, how do we actually make this happen? And when we started implementing the original engine now 2 years ago, which was actually a third engine probably, which we came up with as well. The thinking was that, well, this isn't actually that hard. It's not a massive deal to implement that. But then you start realizing all of the different variations and complexity, and within the list and libraries and fields and content types and whatever, it's surprisingly big deal. So really what we want to do with the PnP provisioning engine is that it is actually controlled by SharePoint engineering. So the SharePoint engineering is behind all of these decisions as well. What do we implement there? And if something goes completely sour, we also absolutely step in with additional resources. But what we want to do with that one is to have a proper community so that everybody can contribute and it evolves faster, and it has the capabilities as fast as possible. We know that there has been some bugs, and there's always some bugs when you're doing software development, but always we're trying to address those as fast as possible as well. Before we close, because there might be somebody kind of considering the taking the PnP engine into use. So how many technical problems you've been having on the engine itself, related on bugs or whatever, or how do you verify or upgrade to the latest version in your process?
What we are able to do here is we have an own. Of course, every engineer in our team has his own environment, and we have the different versions of the CSOM object model, for example, in the different development and testing environments available. And we have some test protocols, and we just go through and say, okay, how is our main stuff working with the newest library? And as soon as we don't get major glitches with the newest library, the next thing is that we say, okay, this is in a state where we have a closer look, because if it fails on our basic stuff, and I don't care where the problem is in the deep, but if we fail our basic stuff with a new library, we stop there and say, okay, there is something. Normally we don't have the time to do the proper investigations. We just wait for our next release. On the other hand, if we really need to get to dig deep, we search for the thing that is broken. And the main issue, or one of the main issues that we experienced with all the stuff, is the change of the architecture, because we are speaking now of an async architecture, and in SharePoint on premises everything was synchronous. That was the main thing we needed to get to know, how we should handle all the different things with webhooks or web service requests. They get a timeout or something like this, and how we do the workflow and the user flow. If something breaks in between, how do you notify the user that, for example, he clicks create and the cycle action couldn't be created in the background? This was the main difference in terms of on-premises.
Okay. And it makes a lot of sense, and that is no doubt the main difference from an architectural perspective. Yep. Good. I think we gone through the existing solution. We talked about the architecture in the start. The demo was actually brilliant. I really liked the UI design of the stuff, and we talked about where the usage is. I think we went through the whole topic, so maybe it's time to actually close up. But we'll add all of the URLs which we mentioned in the video, the video notes. We'll also reference our PnP Partner Pack, which is essentially a starter kit to build something like this. It doesn't actually have this fancy UI, but it has the plumbing behind of the scenes, and it's showing the asynchronous process and requests and all of that. That is good solution to kind of adapt or learn how to do similar kind of implementations as well. But I think that's it, Thomas, do you have anything to close up on this one?
No, just one thing that came into my mind right now is that we maybe also need to include into the notes of the webcast that the user interface you saw today is also based on the design guide Stefan Bauer, MVP from Austria,
great point. Yes.
Built. So we worked with Stefan together in the last year, and we were able to get up to speed on how he thinks designs in Office 365 should be implemented. And we are working on integrating all the things his design guide does also into our solutions. So this is an important part. So credit to the guy here.
Absolutely, and Stefan has created this awesome design guide, like Thomas mentioned. So we kind of link that one in the notes, no doubt. Super valuable for anybody who's implementing anything on SharePoint Online. But I think that's it for them. So thank you, Thomas, for great presentation. Great to see in practice how real products are being used and implemented on top of the PnP provisioning engine as well. But thank you, and we'll come up with a new webcast sooner or later. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.